Good morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Well, it's been an interesting watch, hasn't it, what's been going on in Scotland over transgender prisoners and Nicola Sturgeon's various U-turns on this issue. She was forced to backtrack on her policy where trans women are women. And anyone who says they're a woman, whether they're born a woman or not, is a woman, and you're a horrible bigot, transphobic, and bizarrely racist as well, if you think that. That's what she said. But, however, after a trans woman prisoner, i.e. a man, a rapist, was put into a women's prison, and the outcry over that, she was forced to change her policy, and especially after a second trans woman prisoner had been approved for transfer into a women's prison. This was Tiffany Scott, who had an application to move approved. Well, now Sturgeon has been forced to backtrack, and the Scottish Prison Service is carrying out an urgent review on trans prisoners with history of violence against women being placed into women's jails in Scotland. Well, let's talk about this with Kellie-Jay Keen, who's founder of the protest group Standing for Women. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Lovely to talk to you. I have to say, I think this is one of your victories of your campaigning over the years, Kellie-Jay. You were the person who actually persuaded me that actually we shouldn't even be using things like preferred pronouns, even as a matter of courtesy, which I've always tried to do, because you then get yourself into this bizarre situation where you've got all these newspaper articles talking about when, you know, she committed these rapes, in the other case of Tiffany Scott, she stalked a 13-year-old girl when she was a man and did this with her penis and things like that. And you get into this madness and you end up in a situation where you talk about putting men into women's prisons because of an original urge just to be polite. And you've always said this was a crazy thing to do.
Well, it is. And I'm happy to be right, although not that happy, because it has meant that some really dangerous men have gone into women's prisons. So this was always the logical conclusion of lying.
And yeah, and it is lying, isn't it? That's the crucial thing. What do you make of Nicola Sturgeon, though, on this issue? Because she was very, very clear that this trans self-ID law in Scotland was absolutely vital for trans rights. There was no risk to women. Any man or any woman could basically, after a few weeks, say, I believe, you know, this is what I believe I'm born in the wrong body. They can change their identity, change their gender on official certificates and accrue the rights of the opposite sex as a result without any medical intervention or anything whatsoever. She's having to backtrack on that now, isn't she?
Well, yeah, quite dramatically and very rapidly, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to watch. This thing unravel quite so quickly. And the beauty of it is, because it's so just egregious, dreadful, it's just made every newspaper and everyone is talking about it. So people that have never had any interest in this debate, haven't considered about all these men in women's spaces, are now really sort of having to examine what this issue means.
Yeah. And it is incredible how long it has taken to get people's attention. And women who've been speaking out on this issue get a load of abuse, and we're all transphobic bigots and things simply for raising issues of women's and girls' safety. To a certain extent, it was a bit of a gift to campaigners like us, that there happened quite by chance to be a man, because he was a man who committed rape. Women can't commit rape because they don't have that particular appendage required for that crime. But Isla Bryson, born Adam Graham, being convicted of a double rape, and at that point being held in a women's prison as a result of claiming to be a trans. That happening in the same week as we have this challenge from the Westminster government to the new law in Scotland because of the implications on women's rights and equality rights. That was a sort of almost a PR gift for the campaign. But again, this has been something that you, me, J.K. Rowling, Maya Forstater, Ellen Joyce, many others have been talking about for years. You and I, I interviewed you years ago about this. This need to protect women in sex-based spaces like toilets, like changing rooms, like prisons, like refuges, all of these places where women have got safe spaces for a reason. Why do you think it took this case and this law for people to suddenly open their eyes and realise this was a serious issue?
Well, because it's impossible to defend, and everything else before that people have been able to defend. I mean, I don't think very well, but also you've got IPSO that completely gags the press. You've got the police that captured. You've got every single institution we would like to trust that's supposed to be independent and have safeguarding has just completely failed women. So it was always going to be quite difficult to turn that particular tide because so much had changed while we were fast asleep and had no idea what was going on. So, you know, a rapist, this is particularly dreadful, isn't it? And all along getting that man into a women's prison, there have been people that have said yes to that. You know, many people, not just a couple, who totally disregarded the safety of women and for some reason just went along with putting such a dangerous man into a woman's prison.
Yeah, I mean, this was extraordinary. People say, oh, it's just, you know, I mean, this isn't happening routinely. Well, yes, it is. I mean, there are, in Scotland alone, there are 9 people, either trans men or trans women, in behind bars in the I would say the wrong prison. And this idea that let's call them by their actual names, Adam Graham and Andrew Burns. You know, they are a proven, clear and present danger to women, and yet. Yeah, of course, put them in a women's prison, you know, unless thought otherwise. It's that presumption, isn't it? And this isn't the idea that it's not because we think that trans people are a danger to women. We just know that statistically, men are a danger to women and therefore should not be with women who are in confined spaces and unable, either getting undressed in the loo or in a prison cell. This is blindingly obvious to me, I think, to pretty much everyone in my audience, apart from those who just listen and watch just so they can make an Ofcom complaint. You know the sort. And it's blindingly obvious to people that you've been campaigning on the streets and focusing on this. Why is it not obvious to the people who tell us we must not dead name, i.e. use the original birth name of men in these scenarios, that we must use preferred pronouns and refer to her penis and things like that? And the politicians who play along with this, particularly the SNP and the Labour and Liberal Democrat Party, why do you think it's not obvious to them?
Well, because no one's actually thinking about the impact on women.
But they can't. No, they can't. They can't not have thought about the impact on women. We've been telling them about it for years.
Yeah, but we've been telling them with our female voices. So I just don't think.
Maybe if I changed my name to Julian, would they take me more seriously?
Well, I suspect they would. I genuinely do think this, and I hate it because I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to think that as a woman I tread a more precarious path, although this particular ideology has made me rethink that. It can only be that. Like, if you're on a board where you're looking at the safeguarding or the risk assessment to put a rapist in a woman's prison, you cannot for 1 second have considered those women in order to, all the female members of staff, in order to put that man into that prison. So that's the only thing that actually makes sense, that you just haven't considered women and in some cases children.
Yeah, very good point. Kellie-Jay Keen, founder of Standing for Women. Thank you very much. So you'd like to point out, by the way, that sign behind her saying adult human female, that is considered to be a bigoted statement. It's the dictionary definition, well, it used to be, of what a woman is. But there we are. 8:33 is the time. This is Talk Breakfast.